How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Greetings, America. Welcome. I hope you are doing well. We're keeping an eye on this situation in Arizona. Concerns about Savannah Guthrie's mother, Nancy. She has disappeared. The police are treating it as a crime scene. Believe she did not leave on her own. That's all we know at the time. We're keeping our eye on it. If I hear anything, I will let you know. That's Savannah Guthrie from the Today Show involved. The phone number, 877-973-7425. Don't forget to text Eric to 33777, ERICK to 33777. Actually, there's a lot of news out there, but there's news that's not getting covered, and I think I know why it's not getting covered a lot. And it's because it exposes just how bad things are in so many Democratic areas of the country. Democratic political leadership is failing people across the nation, and they're going to get reelected. And that's the bizarre thing here, is they're not going to get blamed for their incompetence. Look at California and Los Angeles. The houses are not being rebuilt after the fire. They've claimed to waive regulations and the like, but they've driven up the cost. They're essentially trying to make it impossible for people to go back to the way it was before the fires. They want to introduce Section 8 housing and the like. The local governance under Mayor Bass and Gavin Newsom has failed. They've tried to blame Donald Trump for stuff. Trump just signed an executive order to try to take over control of the rebuilding process. He's not going to be able to generally, but they've just flat out given up on governance in California. They've given up on building these houses. Now let's do Nashville, Tennessee. In Nashville, people have been without power since the ice storm last weekend before last. It's been 2 weeks, basically. They can't clean the roads. They can't get kids to school. The power is out. I saw, where is it now? I think we put it in the show notes. Marsha Blackburn, the senator who is now running for governor there, said the Nashville Electric Service held 102 DEI-related training sessions at the end of 2024. They could have used the money to trim trees and bury utilities. Instead, the company went woke and decided to spend its money on DEI-related training sessions. And they cut the tree trimming budget to do so. This is something you need to pay attention to here. The Nashville Electric Service cut its budget for trimming trees and expanded its budget for DEI workshops to feel good for the local progressive politicians. And the result is a massive collapse of trees on power lines in Nashville that have taken out the power lines. And not just in the mostly white neighborhoods either. In Washington, D.C., the mayor is begging for National Guard help. They can't get the roads cleared. There's ice and snow everywhere. It's snowcrete, they're calling it. It's like concrete snow. It's frozen and refrozen and thawed and refrozen and thawed and refrozen. And it's basically just a big block of ice now that is strong and on top of the roads, and they're not getting it off. Schools are closed all over Northern Virginia and in Maryland because they can't clean the streets. They can't clean the roads. They can't open the schools and get kids to schools. And they're treating it like COVID. They're just shutting down. It's just rather blasé now. We're just closing schools again, just like in COVID. Around the country, we're seeing Democrats unable to govern at the local level. I mean, the power is out in Nashville. Again, this blows my mind. 102 DEI training sessions at the end of 2024, and the same power company, the Nashville Electric Service, cut its budget for trimming trees by $7.2 million. That's nuts. In the Memphis area, people can't get on the roads. In Washington, D.C., the mayor wants the National Guard. You know, the very same mayor who blasted the National Guard coming in to keep the people safe now wants the National Guard to come in to clean the roads, something that local government can't do. You know what the mayor of Washington, D.C.'s most innovative solution has been? And I'm not making this up. She put it on Twitter. New piles of salt spread around the city. You can come bring buckets and shovel salt and walk back the icy roads and sprinkle the salt. And you too can help do what you paid government tax dollars to do. The willingness to shut down schools and just say, nope, we don't need to educate the kids. It's too cold. Now, you can say, and there is some merit to the fact that the storm is rather historic that we had. It was one of the worst ice storms these parts of the country have seen. But guess what? It is winter. And there's a side aspect to this. Right now, you know what's keeping people warm? Coal plants and natural gas. Solar panels aren't working for the wealthy white people in Nashville to keep their homes online because it's too cloudy and the snow has piled up on the solar panels. There aren't enough wind farms to keep people working. The very things the left wants, remember, they want you to get rid of your natural gas. The left wants you to get rid of your coal. The left wants you to get rid of your gas stoves. The left wants you to get rid of the gas that are keeping your generators going because the local government can't keep things online. All of the things that people are using for survival in light of government failure, the left demands that we give up. The people in the Nashville area I know who have power are the ones who have home generators. Those generators require oil and gas. In the Washington and Maryland and Virginia area where progressive politicians are demanding an end to coal, it's the coal-fired plants and the natural gas plants that are keeping power on where power can get to. A lot of places don't have power. This is Democratic governance. And then you get back out to California where they can't rebuild houses because of government regulation, government getting in the way. They promised they would. It's been forever, and the only house that's built was a house that was already scheduled to be built on a piece of property that was going to be torn down, and said the fire burned it down, and they were able to clear the land and get it built. And Los Angeles like, success, success, we have a house. What house? That already had the paperwork done before the fire. Y'all, Republicans should be capitalizing on the failure of Democrats in Democrat-controlled cities. And the Democratic spin is, well, these are red states. Yes, but it's local governments that handle the school boards and local governments that clean and salt the local roads. You know, here in Georgia, we had the same storm come through. And in North Georgia, they got a lot of snow and ice, and temperatures have been below freezing. And they regularly salted the roads. You know, the other thing we're seeing is individuals taking responsibility themselves to help. Follow a guy up in North Georgia. We've been meeting to get together for a beer, and we haven't. He's got a tractor. He pulled 20 people out of ditches on icy roads. 20 people with his tractor. One of them, he says he's pretty sure he pulled out twice. Individuals are helping individuals. We've got some friends up in the Nashville area near Franklin. Their neighborhood's power is out. They have a generator. A lot of the people in their neighborhood don't, so they've been inviting their friends over to come stay warm and have warm food. Individuals are helping individuals. Neighbors are helping neighbors. At the local level, neighbors matter. But all of us pay taxes to local governments. And those local governments, many of them highly progressive, have spent a lot of time pushing progressive issues, pushing progressive activism, funding DEI, defunding things that matter, defunding at the corporate level, tree trimming. defunding salt and salt trucks, demanding that power plants be shut down, insisting that wind and solar can take care of everything until, well, it can't. And then in New York City, the new mayor comes in and talks about the coldness of capitalism and the warmth of collectivism. And the warmth of collectivism has killed 15 people in New York City since Mamdani became mayor and decided that the warmth of collectivism meant they wouldn't round up the homeless people and put them in shelters during the freezing cold, and 15 of them died. And they can't pick up the trash. It was like 2 years ago, Eric Adams, the former mayor, introduced trash cans to New Yorkers for the first time. The moment Mamdani came in, they got rid of the trash cans. There's trash, 8-foot-high piles of trash around New York City. They can't collect it, and now it's frozen. The streets are frozen. The sidewalks are frozen. They can't pick up the trash. The rats are having a field day in New York City. Local Democrats in Democratic areas are unable to perform the basic tasks of governance. People's trust in government is breaking down. Look at the federal government level. Go back to COVID and the restrictions put on COVID. Some made sense. A lot of them didn't. The ones that made sense stopped making sense, and they doubled down on all of them. They couldn't be honest about the lab theory and where COVID came from. The government couldn't. The scientists couldn't. The newspapers couldn't. People are losing trust in institutions. And when you can't get the basic things right, people won't trust you for the heavy tasks. The very basics of government are keep people safe, keep the roads open, and keep the schools open. When they open the schools, the kids are dumbed down and indoctrinated instead of educated. They come out of the schools unable to read, write, or do math. And when the storm comes, they can't do anything. Just compare this to Florida. When major hurricanes come through Florida, the whole state comes together, operates effectively. They can get bridges rebuilt in a matter of weeks, roads reopened within a matter of days. People's lives can go back to normal in a matter of days. When a hurricane comes through, and you could say, well, Eric said when a hurricane comes through, the ice doesn't stay on the ground. That's true. That is true. But in a lot of places in the country, we're not talking about this. In Ohio or Illinois even. We're not talking about it in Indiana. We're not talking about it in other states that got massive snowstorms, because in those states, in many of those cities, the local government responded competently. But in these areas of the country where the progressives have taken over cities, in the South and in the mid-Atlantic states, the progressives came in and decided, well, we don't need those gas-powered brine trucks because they're bad for the environment. Let's get rid of them unless we can find battery-operated or solar panel-operated ones. Let's actually spend our money on DEI instead. And they stopped doing the necessary things to keep the citizenry safe. They don't enforce the laws. They let illegal aliens out of jail. If you are non-white, you get easier prison sentences in some of these progressive areas. Now, yes, they're literally letting non-white people out of prison, claiming that it is systemic racism that caused them the problems. We're seeing this with the DA in Philadelphia and elsewhere around the country. It's a big thing in Canada right now. If you're a non-white person in Canada, or you're an Indian in Canada, an American Indian, not East Asian Indian, you can say that well, it's the colonial oppression that caused me to do this, and they're going to get you out of jail. You think I'm making that up. I'm actually not making that up. In Canada now, colonialism and systemic racism can be taken into account by judges to lower sentences for non-white people. They're doing that in parts of this country as well. Americans are getting killed in crime waves, and the Democrats say it's okay because we are addressing systemic racism. They address systemic racism and diversity, equity, and inclusion while people are freezing to death, trash is piling high, and kids can't go to school. This is the Democratic Party in the United States of America right now, and frankly, the Republicans should be running on these issues. Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here. You know who one of the big winners of the weekend is? People are very mad at me for saying this, by the way. I think one of the big winners of the weekend is Billie Eilish's Stalker. She lives in a mansion in the LA area with a very high wall around it and a gate. And at the Grammys this weekend, Billie Eilish said this.
Thank you so much. I can't believe this. Everyone else in this category are so amazing. I love you so much. I feel so honored every time I get to be in this room. And as grateful as I feel, I honestly don't feel like I need to say anything, but that no one is illegal on stolen land.
No one is illegal on stolen land, Ms. Eilish said. Buddy, I think that might be an invitation for you to go over and see if you can get through the gate, because if no one's illegal on stolen land, her house is in Los Angeles in an area that was once tribal until taken by the Mexicans and then the Americans, so it's stolen land and you can't be illegal on it, according to her logic. I don't actually think you should try. You should stay away. You probably need therapy, but that's her logic. She has a restraining order against a stalker who's tried to enter her gated property, but she says no one's illegal on stolen land. She either is inviting the stalker in or she's a hypocrite, and I'm going with hypocrisy. That's the insanity of the left. And by the way, I keep telling you, this is a recurring theme on the left now. They have delegitimized the United States into being stolen land, and therefore we have no moral right to oust people from the stolen land. That is the insane logic of the lunatic left that is driving the Democratic Party these days. And the hypocrisy is overwhelming. Now, folks, I have to tell you, funny story, I ran out of hot water this weekend with my tankless forever hot water heater. It wasn't the water heater's fault. We got a new propane tank in our house, and over the weekend, apparently the sensor broke. Sometime in the last 5 days, the sensor broke, and right on the verge of needing a propane tank. Thankfully, they came out on Saturday night, the propane people did. Donnie's Propane in our community, Mr. Donnie had Mr. Pearson come out, and he refilled the tank, and we're back to having hot water. You know what? We had hot water when the power went out the other day. Why? Because we have a tankless water heater from Renai, and I have it on a UPS system. Just one like you can buy it at Walmart, and it works. It's highly efficient, and it keeps our hot water flowing. My daughter and my son never fight over hot water anymore. It's wonderful. And then I can get in the shower and I have hot water. And our power bill has gone down. We had electric water heaters. We ditched our tanks for the tankless. You can too. The Renai tankless water heaters, they're just north of me in Griffin, Georgia. They've got a facility up there. Great people, great product. Have hot water forever, as long as you remember to fill your propane tank. TalkingTankless.com is the website. TalkingTankless.com. You're not going to run out of hot water. It's going to be hot. It's going to be there when you need it. Thanks to Renai. TalkingTankless.com. Ditch your tank of a water heater. Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number, if you want to be on the program today, is 877-973-7425. Delighted to have you with me, and I hope you guys actually had a great weekend and stayed warm. It got really, really cold all the way down to, it got cold down to Florida. I was watching the hockey game last night. By the way, just side note, watch the Boston versus Tampa Bay hockey game last night. Boston's up 5-1, commits so many penalties, they basically have to take all of their players off the ice. And it's like three players, I think, on the ice to five. It was a bad look. And Tampa wound up winning the game in large part because Boston's hockey team caused so many penalties. I think they hold the record this year in penalties in the NHL. It was just kind of funny to watch a team blow its lead by so many penalties. It really actually was kind of funny to watch it happen. Poor old Philip was beside himself. He's a Tampa fan, and I mean, they were behind 5-1 in Tampa until Boston decided to outdo itself with slashing and hooking and every other possible penalty short of murder on the ice. Now, wait, I listen. I want to warn you. Next hour, we gotta have some hard conversations. Right now, however, I want to talk a little bit about some of the news that isn't being talked about, that should be talked about, and the Republicans themselves should be the ones to bring this up. The first murder in Washington, D.C. for the year 2026 happened on January 21st. Let me say it again. The first murder in Washington, D.C. happened on January 21st of this year. First murder for the year. Washington, D.C. has not gone more than 10 days into a new year without a murder in over 30 years. Washington, D.C. broke the record in a good way because Donald Trump took crime in Washington, D.C. seriously. And all the members of the media who insisted what he was doing in Washington, D.C. was bad have not said sorry or even recognized they were wrong. Donald Trump has made Washington, D.C. safer. Objectively so. Objectively. We have the data on this. We have the data from Memphis, Tennessee, where crime is down significantly in Memphis, Tennessee. Tourists are returning to Memphis, Tennessee, because for a long time, the tourists bailed on Memphis. They went to Nashville instead, in large part because Memphis just wasn't a safe place to be. But it's safe again, relatively speaking. They're now doing it in New Orleans, Louisiana. New Orleans has never been a super safe city, even when I was a kid. When I was in college, I would take friends over to New Orleans for just because people wanted to go to New Orleans. They'd never been, and I'm from there, or from just north of there, and so I would drive, and I knew the places to go and how to pronounce the street names, Tchoupitoulas and the like. New Orleans is not a very safe place, but the president and the state of Louisiana have been making it safer with the presence of the National Guard and other law enforcement there to help New Orleans reduce its crime. And by the way, it's noticeably working. Around the country, some of the data that we're seeing is that crime is down. And you know what progressives' response is? It's, well, how do we know crime is actually down? They could be rigging the statistics. Now, there's projection there because we actually know that's what happened in Washington, D.C. for a number of years. When people were complaining about crime in Washington, D.C., you had progressives in the media insisting that crime was down. And now we know they actually were rigging it. They actually were. Local police were putting pressure on deputies to not report crimes or downgrade crimes, so it made the crime look good. We know in other cities around the nation, from Chicago to Los Angeles, they were simply not reporting crimes to the FBI, and it made it look like crime was down in local areas when everyone knew crime was up. They weren't doing it, and progressives excused it, made excuses for it, pretended it wasn't happening, and now we know that crime is actually down around the country. People actually feel safer, and they're like, well, it could be rigged. Maybe it's not true. Heads you win. Heads I win, tails you lose. That's kind of sort of where they are. Crime is down. By the way, I don't know if you've seen this data, but you know what? Support for deportations is still over 50% of the country. What people don't like is the way it's being handled. There's an interesting side note here. If you pull up Donald Trump's polling on the issue of immigration, it looks very much like the polling for Joe Biden's general popularity. Remember, there was a distinct moment where Joe Biden was very popular and then he wasn't. And he never got popular again. And that moment was the withdrawal from Afghanistan. It looked bungled. You know where the axis shifts for Donald Trump on immigration? It shifts with Kumar Garcia. You know, they call him the Maryland man. He was the El Salvadorian illegal alien with possible ties to gangs. Kumar Abrego Garcia, I think his name is. That is where the shift happens for Donald Trump, because they seem to ignore judicial orders. They seem to be very heavy-handed. They put him in El Salvador in a prison, then said, he's in El Salvador. We can't bring him back. And that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, that it was very heavy-handed. And it looked like the president could not be trusted to properly, legally handle deportations. And people shifted with the president on that. So why don't we let Tom Homan be Tom Homan and change things up? You know, Homan didn't support that. Homan hasn't supported the mass roundups. So why don't we as a party, as a people on the right, let Tom Homan sort it out and then get back to it and watch the left continue to implode? Also, by the way, the economy continues to do pretty well. There are some warning signs in the economy, but the economy's doing pretty good. In fact, the president's team argues that when you start getting your tax refunds this year, your refunds are going to be so significant that you actually will benefit and you will credit the president, and businesses will credit the president. When businesses start getting tax refunds back and start reinvesting in businesses, the president's team thinks you're going to be thanking him. Let's give it time to see. And then there's Democratic culture. James Carville had a very funny James Carville style conversation with Raymond Arroyo. I guess is a Fox Nation interview. So we had to bleep out James's profanity, I want you to know. And Kobe, just in case Charlie and I missed some, keep your finger on the button. But I listened to the clip. I think we got it all. This is James Carville talking about Democratic culture.
Democratic culture became very feminized and very judgmental. And that is why we push so many of these males away, particularly younger males, I hate the word, younger non-white.
Right.
Younger non-white
Black
males.
and Hispanic males.
Yeah, exactly. Because they were telling them, they sit there and they says, okay, so a guy who works at a tire shop in South Atlanta, he's in a July heat, he's changing tires all day, he's aligning wheels, and he goes home and he says, don't drink beer, don't eat hamburgers, don't watch football, don't have sex. Like, what do you want me to do? I've been out there working. I want to have a beer and watch the game and, smoke dope and have sex with my girlfriend. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Why are we telling you? Right. And it became, you could feel it in the culture. Mm. And everybody had their finger in their face telling them what not to do.
Yes. So here's my point in all of this. You're not hearing the stories of success with crime. Crime is down. The president, I guess he's at some event, Air Force One. He had his tux on. Listen to the president.
How are you feeling about Secretary Noakes handling the matters in the last week?
Well, she's done great. I mean, we have a closed border. We've taken out thousands and thousands of killers and murderers and everything else, removed them from our country by the tens of thousands, and we have the crime rate that's the lowest in history. I didn't do the crime rate stats. It just came out yesterday that we have the lowest crime rate in the history of our country.
You got a low crime rate. You got a stock market that's still doing well. You've got big tax refunds on the way. You got the crime down in places like Washington, D.C., and Memphis, Tennessee, and New Orleans, Louisiana. Let Tom Homan sort out the immigration stuff. Keep deporting people. Do it legally. Do it properly. The Republicans have something to run on if they're willing to run on these things. And we can all sit here and complain, and we can say, well, the media is not covering this stuff. The media is not going to cover this stuff. You got to make the media cover this stuff by talking about this stuff. The media is always biased against the GOP. This isn't new. They're hostile against Donald Trump. This isn't new. So you got to force them to talk about this stuff. You got to force the media to bring these things up. And they'll do their best to discredit it because it makes you look good. But people know their communities feel safer now. You can walk down your street now in a lot of parts of the country where just 2 years ago you couldn't. Deportations, yeah, they need to let Tom Homan settle this down. But my suspicion is Democrats are going to overplay their hand. When you get this rapturous applause from the left on this whole idea that this is stolen land, no one can be deported. Actually, majority of Americans support deportations. They just don't like the way Trump's team has been doing it. You're going to have to sideline Stephen Miller, I think, to a degree for that to the process to change dramatically. He wants them all rounded up. I would love every deported person here, but you got to follow a proper process. By the way, you know what the Democratic plan is right now? There's a partial shutdown. I don't think you feel shut down, but there's a partial government shutdown happening until the House passes some funding from the Senate. And then in 2 weeks, they may shut down TSA. The Democrats might, because they're trying to negotiate changes. And I don't think those changes are gonna be successful. They want changes to ICE, and they want changes to border security. They want changes to the deportation process, and I don't think the GOP is going to give it to them. I don't think they are. And that's a fight. And when the Democrats decide to shut it all down, and all they can shut down is TSA so that people see the deportations are continuing, but you can't get through the airport. I think people are going to have a real problem because the Democrats have decided they're going to keep it all shut down. They're going to keep it all shut down until the election time. That's actually what they're planning is they want it completely shut down until the election. And when people can't go through airports because security is closed, good luck, Democrats. Good luck. I don't think that's going to work well. I don't think that's going to be what the country is for. Meanwhile, Donald Trump can say, look, crime is down. Look, the economy is doing well. Look at your tax refunds. Look at your businesses reinvesting. Look at the growth in the local economy. Look at your 401k. But Republicans are going to have to talk about those things. Right now, Republicans are just squabbling with each other over stuff. We're going to talk about the bad news in the next hour. The story in the Wall Street Journal, the corruption issue with Trump, but also with Biden, the special election in Texas that didn't go the way that you would hope it would go. We're going to talk about those. I'm not going to hide from them. Not going to shy away from them. Somebody told me this morning, I bet you're not going to talk about this story in the Wall Street Journal. It's like, buddy, it's already in my show notes for the day. You're darn right I'm going to talk about it. I don't shy away from that stuff. But Republicans can't shy away from a message that also is on deportations that says we believe in deporting illegal aliens. Democrats don't. Democrats right now think that they have a winning issue on their hands, but I guarantee you they're going to overplay it. They're going to overplay it, and they're going to go back to no illegals on stolen land. They're going to pull the Billie Eilish line because that's where the progressive base is. And that can alienate them from the voters. And there is time. The general election is not until November. Get with it, GOP. Greetings. This hour of the program brought to you by Van Allen Golf, ALLEN, Van Allen Golf. You can text the word golf to 33777 to find out more, or go to vanallengolf.com and check them out on Instagram. They're beautiful golf pictures on Instagram. I have one of their putters. It's a phenomenal putter. I love it. I love the team behind it. I love the technology and design and the milling, everything about this. You're thinking, if you're not a golf person, it's all hype. I thought that too. And then I got one. I bought one. They didn't give it to me. I bought it. I'm a buyer. I'm a customer. And I also love telling you about them. vanallengolf.com. Glad to be with them. So my wife is a very proud Southerner. And she does not like the Yankee imposter Puxatawny Phil because here in Georgia, we have General Beauregard Lee. our own southern groundhog. Well, the headmaster of my children's school is from Pennsylvania. And so every year on the second day of February, I live in a personal hell as the principal, headmaster, and my wife retaliate against each other with ever-escalating insults about the respective groundhogs every single year. Until this year, my wife decided she would be willing to give the Pennsylvania quote-unquote Yankee imposter a try after she was betrayed by Georgia's General Beauregard Lee, who decided there were going to be 6 more weeks of winter because he saw his shadow and retreated. Southern generals used to do. Well, sadly, Punxsutawney Phil also saw his shadow. The Southerner and the Yankee agree. My wife is very unhappy about it all. The headmaster is gloating. I have had to block the chat. Oh, the groundhogs. Why are we relying on groundhogs to tell us the weather? What I can tell you is it is cold, and I don't like it. I got in my hot tub on Saturday night. The beer did not freeze, but everything else around the hot tub did, all where the water had dropped. And then the next morning, Sunday morning, I got up, I took the dog outside, and there were icicles hanging off the hot tub. Thank you, Georgia Spa Company, for my hot tub. But there were icicles hanging down it where the water had been dripping. It's cold. I don't know how you people up north do it. I just know I'm very opposed to this cold. I don't want it super hot, but I'd rather warm than this. My goodness. This hour of the program as well, I need to mention Vision Computers. Vision Computers can build you computers. But let me just talk to you real quick about scams, because I got hit with one this weekend. I very thankfully didn't fall for it, but I got approached with a scammer. And one of the cool things that Vision Computers can do, if you have their managed IT support, is you can call them 15 seconds or less. Somebody's going to get on the phone with you, and they can stay on the phone with you while someone's attempting to scam you and help you navigate whether it's legit or not. Or they can look into those emails. You get in the email that your account is overdue or your credit card has changed. Vision can help you with that sort of stuff. Your parents, Vision can help keep them from being taken advantage. 404 Computers, the number. Or go to visioncomputers.com. They build you computers as well. In fact, if you get a computer from Vision Computers, their managed IT service comes free with it. 404 Compute, anybody nationwide from Hawaii and Alaska to Florida to Maine, it doesn't matter. They'll work with you. 404 Computer, visioncomputers.com. Let them be your managed IT service. Let them build you a new computer.